We're in the middle of a graphic description of the cosmic dissolution. It's according to the Hindu worldview, but I'm sure there are many elements that non-Hindus can relate to as well. It is described under the framework of the elements. First, the earth element gets destroyed or comes apart, and then the water element, and so on. Vasishta continued, once the earth element had thus been absorbed in the infinite consciousness and had transcended its limitation, the water element turned towards its own dissolution. We've heard before in the section on, particularly in relation to creation, how we develop increasingly dense notions. A dense notion is something which we assume to be true, although it's only an idea. A notion like matter or earth. This is an idea we have. And it probably relates fundamentally to an aspect of experiencing called resistance. Things don't go through each other, do they? They meet resistance. From this feeling, we develop notions of density, of matter, of solidity. That's what's real. Something solid is real, even though we experience solidity in our dreams, and we're quite happy to dismiss them as unreal. So the elements correspond to a spectrum of density, of increasing density. And water is less dense in this sense than earth, because it's fluid. It's fluid. It flows. We can go through water. So when the elements are turned towards their own dissolution, this is part of a meditation practice whereby you realize the notional nature of the elements, which are the basis for your understanding of a physical world. And we do this by coming back to the immediate experiencing. There are sensations going on which are the basis for our notions of matter, of solidity. So by gradually contemplating the elements, the notional nature of the elements becomes more and more obvious, and we're not taken in by the reality which has been created for us through conditioning, through repeated conditioning. When the water got agitated, it exceeded its own natural bounds, and the oceans transgressed their bounds, overflowing in all directions. Making dreadful sounds, the waves lashed at the forests and began to destroy them. The noise that water makes when it's unleashed is very dramatic. These mighty waves mingled with the clouds in space, and it became one mass of water. All the mountains were submerged under water. The aquatic creatures were in panic and ran helter-skelter in an attempt to escape from the calamity. I suppose they would have been swimming helter-skelter. When the waves destroyed the mountain caves, lions ran out of them, destroyed other creatures, and were eventually themselves destroyed. The tumult raised by all this reached even the region of the sun. It appeared as if the oceans had invaded the regions of the god themselves, and had occupied them. On account of the destruction of the forests and mountains caused by the power of the tidal waves, it looked as if the whole of space were a big forest of trees and mountains. The great mountains were being dissolved in the waters of the ocean. So all the notions of matter, of solidity, are being broken down, becoming more fluid. At one stage it looked as though the mountains were laughing with their teeth bared, because, washed by the tidal waters, The precious and semi-precious stones that remained underground have become exposed on the mountain sides. It looked as though even the celestial bodies were affected by this. The earth mountains fell on some of them, making a loud noise. Even the fires of cosmic destruction appeared to be afraid of being put out by these tidal waves. At one stage there was terrible warfare between the earth elements and sea elephants. The single ocean shone with a supernatural radiance at that time, when so many earthly objects were getting drowned in it. Then it looked as if space itself were falling into the waters of cosmic dissolution. The firmament with all its light and its precious jewels fell into the flood. Flames of fire spread out in all directions, consuming all that existed in space. Since the Creator had withdrawn his realization of the world, the demons and others were let loose to cause what havoc they pleased. All the gods, Indra, etc., who are the deities presiding over the natural elements to maintain order among them, had been overpowered by the demons. There was chaos. Even the abodes of Shiva, etc., were shaken and disturbed. The stars and planets collided with one another, and there was cosmic destruction.